Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 99 based on novel. So let's start. On the clear sky, suddenly, a violent hurricane hit the world, bringing a wave of roaring tree waves on the forest sea below. This extremely unusual scene immediately startled some low-level warcraft in the forest. However, when they looked up at the sky, they found nothing. In the void, Xiao Yan combined his breath with the heaven and earth through the magic of Tianjueben, which made Xiao Yang's existence invisible under the rapid flying. But even so, Xiao Yang didn't dare to be careless. Ordinary low-level warcraft couldn't find him, but it doesn't mean that those people couldn't find him either. As 9 stars and a half emperors, they naturally have their own strength. Although Xiao Yang's technique of hiding breath is extremely clever, in fact, as early as Xiao Yang set foot in the sky, the 3 masters of this area have already noticed Xiao Yang's existence. At this time, Xiao Yang could only pray secretly in his heart that he could pass through their territory before the 3 guys came. But in fact, Xiao Yang's prayer was useless. "Boy, I have told you to leave here. This is not where you should come. We don't want to kill you. If you leave now, we can let you go, but if you are stubborn, don't blame me for waiting." On the way of flying rapidly, at this moment, on the sky where Xiao Yang is, there is a low voice like thunder. At the same time, between heaven and earth, 3 terrible momentum suddenly fell on Xiao Yang in the void like Mount Tai. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang shouted in his heart that it was not good, and the look on his face also changed. If the other party had only 1 9-star and half emperor, it would be all right. But facing 3 9-star and half emperors at the same time, it was still difficult for Xiao Yang to resist. At the same time, Xiao Yang also tried his best to display Tianjue step. The speed of Tianjue step broke out at the moment. Xiao Yang Dun, who showed his body, turned into a black thunder. With the momentum of lightning, he appeared in the sky hundreds of feet away in a twinkling. Nevertheless, Xiao Yang's speed has not slowed down in the slightest, because Xiao Yang has clearly realized that one of the 3 9-star and half emperors can't compare with Xiao Yang's pace, even if it's the best pace in the sky. Boy, it's not slow, but unfortunately, it's too inferior in front of the king. The blue eyes showed a surprised color. Immediately, in the sky behind Xiao Yang, a violent wind swept across the sky. At the same time, a huge shadow swept across the mountains and forests below. In a moment, it had caught up with Xiao Yang. "Boy, you don't have to run. Your speed is still too young in front of the king." The insipid voice of words came out. Immediately, a white palm stretched out from behind Xiao Yang. One palm wanted to fall on Xiao Yang's shoulder and forcibly stop it in the void. 6 tabernacles. Open. He whispered in his heart. At the moment when the white palm fell, Xiao Yang suddenly condensed a black curtain in front of his body. Xiao Yang plunged into it and disappeared in the twinkling of an eye, and the white palm was quite surprised. "I just have to take this road. Please give way. If I come back in the future, I will thank you. But today, I have to borrow this road. If I don't borrow it, I have to borrow it." While Xiao Yang's body disappeared, his unswerving voice also spread in the sky. "Huh!" Seeing Xiao Yang disappear so abruptly in front of him, the man behind him was also a little stunned, even though he thought of the black tent released by Xiao Yang just now. Hiss. "That's the power of the road. No wonder you dare to say such words. Originally, you also have several brushes." With this in mind, this man suddenly showed a look of surprise. Unexpectedly, a boy with strength of only 5-star and half emperor could control the power of the road, which is really amazing. At the moment when the man raised his eyes, he only saw that Xiao Yang had appeared not far in front of him. At the moment when Xiao Yang appeared, he released 6 tabernacles again. This repeated until Xiao Yang's 6 tabernacles were displayed. At this time, Xiao Yang had already appeared at the end of the sight of the 3 people behind him. Looking at this appearance, as long as he could insist a little more, Xiao Yang could leave the sphere of influence of the 3 people. "Tianying, what's the matter? Why did you stop here?" Seeing the blue man standing on the void, a strong red-haired man from the rear couldn't help asking loudly. At the same time, beside him, a big man with a tiger back and a bare waist and a body size of nearly 3 meters also looked at the blue man in front of him with a puzzled look in his eyes. "Tut tut, you know, this human boy has controlled the power of the road." The eagle couldn't help but exclaim and turned to look at the 2 people behind him. When they heard the speech, there was a look of surprise on their faces. Can they understand the road? This boy is definitely not an ordinary person, but whether he is an ordinary person or not, We must not let him go deeper. In case of an accident, you and I can't afford it. Smelling the speech, the red-haired strong man was in a heavy tone and reminded the eagle. Oh, don't worry, I know, but I'm a little surprised. What kind of genius is this boy? I've been famous for hundreds of years, but I've never heard of someone who understands the road at the half-emperor level. Another exclamation from the heart. The eagle sighed with a sigh, turned around and looked at the end of the line of sight. A small black spot like sand shot into the eagle's eyes. Ha ha, the same as above. His speed is also the fastest man I have ever seen. If he is stronger, he is the king. I'm afraid he can't catch up with him. Hearing Tianying's exclamation to Xiao Yang one after another, the red-haired strong man and the silent man looked at each other with the same look of horror in their eyes. Even they have never heard Tianying evaluate a person like this. Fierce. When they looked back, the eagle had changed its shape and turned into a giant beast blocking the sky and the sun. The giant beast looks like an eagle. Its wings stretch nearly 1,000 feet. Between its wings, it brings a terrible hurricane sweeping the world, which makes the mountains and forests below tremble. The giant eagle spread its wings. At the next moment, it had approached Xiao Yang with a terrible speed. In Xiao Yang's frightened eyes, it fell over Xiao Yang's head. The huge eagle claws fell and caught Xiao Yang in it. Boy, in the hinterland of Shaolin Mountains, no one is allowed to step half a step. This is the king's last warning to you. If you are so stubborn again, don't blame the king for being merciless. Above the void, the eagle's claws clasped Xiao Yang like a cage, and the low voice of words echoed between the heaven and earth. With the wings of the eagle waving, a hurricane brought invisible waves and swept in all directions. Hearing Tianying's words, Xiao Yang also couldn't help frowning, but in the pair of dark eyes, the resolute look remained the same. I don't mean to disturb your cleaning, but as for leaving, I still say that. Today, you have to borrow this road, whether you borrow it or not. What a arrogant tone, boy, you are. As soon as Xiao Yang burst out of his mouth, Tianying couldn't help laughing. However, before his voice fell, Xiao Yang, controlled by his eagle claws, suddenly rioted. Vajra glass body. Break it for me. With the exertion of Vajra glass body, Xiao Yang's body has become several times larger in the twinkling of an eye. At the same time, the eagle claws of Tianying can no longer trap Xiao Yang. Breaking free from the shackles, Xiao Yang's huge body rushed down the mountain forest. Only there could Xiao Yang hide from the giant eagle above his head. The eagle in the sky was surprised that Xiao Yang could break free from his eagle claws. As a warcraft, his physical cultivation is strong. Tianying has no doubt that with his physical strength, even the ordinary 7-star and half-emperor can never easily break away from his eagle claws. At the moment, Xiao Yang, a human with only 5-star and half-emperor strength, can break free instantly. Although there are many factors of King Kong and glass body, it is enough to show that Xiao Yang's combat power is by no means comparable to that of an ordinary half-emperor. Good boy, no wonder you dare to break into the territory of the three of us alone. I have to say that you really have two brushes. However, the king has said that you should either go back or stay here today. He couldn't help exclaiming. The huge body of Tianying was forcibly twisted in the void, so he wanted to catch Xiao Yang below again. The flame divides the wave ruler. While the eagle claws were grasping Xiao Yang, who was falling rapidly, suddenly turned around in the void. At the same time, a huge black ruler appeared in his hand. At the same time, while Xiao Yang shouted loudly, a gorgeous fire quickly lingered on the heavy ruler. At the moment when the giant ruler was waved, a startling ruler and orn swept across the sky. He bombarded the eagle claws behind Xiao Yang. The eagle tore the wind claw. Seeing the coming Kai Mang, Tianying dared not underestimate it. After realizing the real energy Xiao Yang had, Tianying no longer dared to underestimate the human boy who seemed to have only 5-star and half-emperor in front of him. The startling foot orn was broken, but Xiao Yang's body shape had also fallen into the mountains and forests below, and his body shape also returned to its original size. Hey, did you use this method to avoid my pursuit? But don't forget, we are three. As soon as the eagle smiled, his huge body immediately turned into a human shape, and then suddenly shouted at the rear, saying, Yang Shu, Xiong Gang, it's your turn. Otherwise, the boy really should run away. Hey, you're so fast. Why can't you catch up with a 5-star and a half-emperor? At the same time when the heavenly eagle's voice fell, a rough banter and laughter came from somewhere in the mountain forest below. It was introduced into the heavenly eagle's ears, which also made the latter can't help but curl his mouth. This is the way. You don't know. Although my speed is not weak, I can only occupy the position in the sky. As for the woods, you'd better come. Ha ha, boy, Tianying's evaluation of you is the highest we know, so I also want to see if you deserve it. The strong red-haired man laughed, and immediately his body shook violently. He raised to the sky and issued an earth-shaking lion roar. His legs and feet moved, and his feet fiercely stepped on the void. The next moment, the strong body of the burning lion turned into a red shell and rushed into the mountains below. Xiao Yang in the mountain forest just fell to the ground and didn't stand firm. In front of him, the dense forest was forcibly rushed away by an overbearing force. Immediately, a strong figure wrapped in flame-fighting spirit appeared in Xiao Yang's sight. Ha ha. My name is Yang Shi, the one in the sky is Tianying, and the one behind me is Xionggang. Boy, what's your name? At the same time, the burning lion laughed at Xiao Yang and asked. Seeing the burning lion in front of him in the twinkling of an eye, Xiao Yang didn't dare to have the slightest careless color on his face. While his body turned sharply, the Vajra glass body showed again, and the huge ruler appeared in his hand. If he didn't want to, he blasted out at the burning lion. 7 broken sky ruler. Lion gang fist. Boom.
With an earth-shaking bang, the mountains and forests below were forcibly razed to the ground by a terrible energy storm. Above the horizon, the eagle looked at the scene below. A pair of blue pupils could not help showing a surprised color. Xiao Yang's strength was much stronger than he imagined. After 2 seconds, Xiao Yang in the middle of the storm couldn't help but utter a dull hum. His face quickly turned red when his throat rolled, and then a trace of blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. After all, the other party is a 9-star-and-a-half emperor. With Xiao Yang's own strength, it is still difficult to resist. It is inevitable to suffer a loss at one blow. Seeing that Xiao Yang was only bloody at the corners of his mouth under his fist, Yan Lion's face couldn't help showing an unexpected look. His fist, however, once killed a human strongman with strength in the 6-star-and-a-half emperor. At the moment, Xiao Yang was only slightly injured. From this point of view, Xiao Yang's strength is by no means unusually comparable. Ha ha, it's really good, boy. There's really no mistake in Tianying's evaluation. Your strength is indeed the most unusual among all the semi-emperor strong men I've seen. I'm afraid you're enough to deal with the ordinary 8-star-and-a-half emperor with your current combat strength. The eyes of the burning lion shine, and the exclamation to Xiao Yang in his words is particularly serious. However, for Yang Shi's words, Xiao Yang's heart at the moment can't lift any other emotion. The ruler method is broken, and Xiao Yang's heart doesn't dare to be careless. With the force of anti-earthquake, Xiao Yang quickly turned around and disappeared into the mountains behind again. Hey boy, do you want to run again? With the 3 of us, where do you think you can go? You better listen to my advice, turn back and leave here as soon as possible, otherwise we'll really kill. Seeing Xiao Yang rushing into the mountains and forests again, the burning lion, even if he couldn't help laughing, immediately gave a low roar in his mouth, moved his body again, and quickly chased in the direction Xiao Yang fled. Cough. I don't want to be enemies with you 3, but I have to go this way today. If I offend, I can only return it when I return next day. At the same time, Xiao Yang shouted at the burning lion coming again behind him. At the same time, Xiao Yang's forward speed was suddenly accelerated. Boy, as we have said, no one is allowed to step into the hinterland of Shaolin Mountains. If you want to pass through us, you can't. So, you'd better go back. At the same time, the lion's body also appeared behind Xiao Yang. His big hand looked forward and grabbed Xiao Yang's shoulder. 8-pole collapse. The next moment, when the wide palm of the Yan lion was about to fall on Xiao Yang's shoulder, Xiao Yang suddenly turned around and punched the Yan lion behind him. Bang! With a bang, the body of the burning lion rushed forward without oil and paused in the void for a moment, while Xiao Yang quickly retreated back with the help of the reaction force generated by the collision between the 2 people. When the burning lion looked up, Xiao Yang's body had disappeared into the dense trees again. Good boy, this physical power is really terrible. I'm really curious. Is this boy really human? The arm was shocked, and the burning lion scattered the paralysis on his left arm. Then he sincerely marveled at Xiao Yang again. Soon, the burning lion turned his head and looked behind him. Behind him, the giant man named Xionggang was flying here quickly. Hey, Xionggang, it's your turn now. The boy's speed is too terrible. If I catch up like this, I'm afraid it's hard to catch up with him until tomorrow, so I can only rely on you to stop him here. When he came near, the bear just smiled at the burning lion in front of him, and fell heavily on the burning lion's shoulder. The terrible force was that even the burning lion couldn't help but change his face slightly. Hey, don't worry. Leave it to me. Even if he's fast, he can't leave here. Hey. The bear just grinned and immediately looked up at the eagle above the sky and said with a smile, Jianying, the sky will be given to you. As for the earth, I'm coming. Roar. When the voice fell, the bear suddenly looked up to the sky and made a sky-shaking roar. Immediately, his strong body began to change. Just in a twinkling of an eye, the bear's strong body had become a terrible beast with a height of 100 feet. From a distance, the giant beast looked like a magnified brown bear. The giant bear is covered with boulder armor. It is indestructible. The giant beast is like a living Mount Tai. Every step makes the earth tremble. Xiao Yan hurriedly turned his head and looked behind him. A terrible beast was rapidly approaching him. Even at his speed, it was difficult to catch up with the beast. Ginseng Star Pendant. With a sound like thunder, the whole heaven and earth trembled slightly at the moment. At the same time, on the void, the earthy yellow fighting spirit condensed out of thin air at the moment. In the twinkling of an eye, it turned into huge meteorites and shrouded the whole sky. The next moment, when those meteorites condensed, they smashed down at Xiao Yan in the mountains and forests below. The huge meteorite burned for no reason on the way of falling. The raging flame wrapped every meteorite. On the clear sky, it was like a meteor shower at the moment, beautiful and terrible. Between the mountains and forests, Xiao Yan looked up at the meteorite shrouding the whole sky. He couldn't help feeling shocked by the power of the 9-star-and-a-half emperor, but at the same time, he also had a sense of dignity in his heart. This time, Xiong just faced Xiao Yang, but he used his real skills. With this blow, Xiao Yang had nowhere to hide, and only had a positive confrontation. Who? When Xiao Yang stopped his body, he breathed out a deep breath. Finally, he no longer avoided. He jumped into the void. Xiao Yang looked up at hundreds of meteorites upward and looked solemn. Hey, boy, I'm finally willing to come out. Otherwise, I really can't help you. In the sky, the eagle put his hands around his chest and saw Xiao Yang coming out. The corners of his mouth not only aroused a playful smile, but at the same time, his eyes looking at Xiao Yang were also full of curiosity. He wanted to know what powerful power the human in front of him could explode. With a crisp snap of his fingers, in front of Xiao Yang, different fires of different colors appeared out of thin air. The terrible temperature immediately raised the temperature of the heaven and earth. In the sky, the rising flames on the surface of meteorites were extinguished at this moment. In front of the different fire, there is an ordinary flame, but there is no possibility of its existence. This is the arrogance of the different fire and the authority of the different fire as the emperor in the fire. This is different fire? Seeing the strange fire, the eagle in the sky, the burning lion and Xionggang below were all slightly surprised. Unexpectedly, the black-robed human in front of us was not only powerful, but also able to control the most terrible force in the world.
But Rao is so, which cannot stop the three people from blocking Xiao Yang's determination to go deep into the Shalin Mountains. Xiao Yang looked at the rising fire in front of him, his face was calm, his soul power surged out, and the light car and familiar road condensed the flame in front of him. Seeing this scene, the look on the three faces suddenly changed again. As we all know, as the most violent force in heaven and earth, it is impossible to integrate the two kinds of different fires. But at the moment, the action of the black-robed human seems to integrate all the different fires in front of him. Is this boy crazy? In the sky eagle stared at Xiao Yang below with an ugly face, and his heart could not help but be afraid. Although it was only a child fire, it could not be underestimated. Once the different fire riot broke out, I'm afraid that such forces would be the territory where the three of them were located, and would be destroyed in an instant. However, when Tianying saw Xiao Yang's calm look, he not only raised a trace of doubt in his heart. Can it be said that this black-robed human is really sure that he can integrate the power of different fire? At this time, in Xiao Yang's palm, the breath of terror also condensed again. At this moment, the surrounding void emerged a trace of space cracks, and the invisible energy of heaven and earth also surged up between heaven and earth. Feeling this change between heaven and earth, the three Tianying immediately looked at Xiao Yang below. At the same time, in Xiao Yang's palm, a gorgeous fire lotus with the size of a washbasin also condensed. This boy! In the sky, the eagle's blue pupil suddenly shrank, and he couldn't help shouting in surprise. Below, Xiao Yang slowly looked up and looked at the meteorite falling at a high speed. He smiled slightly at the corners of his mouth, pushed his palm forward gently, and said softly in his mouth, "Go, Buddha Anger Lotus." Under the blue sky, on the void, there are meteors falling like raindrops. The invisible momentum and pressure enveloped a rather tense atmosphere between heaven and earth. At the same time that the meteorite fell, there was a gorgeous flame in the void below the meteorite, emitting a bright light, even in the daytime. This boy, he really fused different fires together. Tianying's face changed. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yan could really do such a crazy thing that ordinary people dare not think of. At the same time, when the eagle looked at the Buddha's angry lotus, he couldn't help showing his astonishment. Even he couldn't help being moved by the power of the fire lotus. Tut tut tut. This boy is determined to destroy my cave. Xionggang, you have to stop him for me, or if my family is gone, I'll live in your house. Feeling the terrible energy contained in the fire lotus, the muscles at the corners of the burning lion's mouth couldn't help pumping. Even if he raised his head and looked at the huge Xionggang in front of him, he shouted loudly. Roar. The voice in the Yang lion's mouth fell. At the same time, it also received a roar that the bear in front just turned around. Then it turned around again and faced Xiao Yang in the joking laughter of the Yang lion. Although Xionggang has developed limbs, he is definitely not a guy with a simple mind. How can he be comparable to an ordinary warcraft when he can reach such a point? He has already felt a strong explosion from Xiao Yang's memory of Buddha Anger Lotus. That power is enough for him to face it squarely. Boom. Suddenly, the terrible roar spread. In an instant, the color of heaven and earth changed. Above the sky, the look on the eagle's face also changed suddenly at this moment. With the outbreak of Buddha's anger lotus, a huge fire lotus slowly took shape between heaven and earth with the energy storm. While the fire lotus blooms, a circle of terrible energy storms are also rapidly sweeping in all directions. Back. With a resolute and sharp drink, the eagle waved his big sleeve, and his body immediately retreated and left. After a low drink, the burning lion below stepped on the void fiercely and quickly turned back. The heavenly eagle and the burning lion retreated, but the bear was just like a mountain, but his body was towering. His body was a rock beetle bear. In the world of Warcraft, his defense was also famous. Although he was no better than the Shenyang beast, with his current cultivation, it was not necessary to retreat in the face of Xiao Yang's attack on the Buddha Angry Lotus. Roar. With a roar, Xiongang's huge paws trampled on the ground. For a long time, before the energy storm spread completely, the earth below suddenly shook violently. Then, huge rock columns broke out from the earth and suddenly rose into a huge encirclement, seal off the energy storm completely. Move mountains and rivers, good guy, but I haven't seen you use this move for a long time, haha. Seeing this scene, the burning lion outside the enclosure couldn't help laughing in surprise. Hihi, I remember the last time I saw him play, I was still to resist the ice spread for that guy, but I didn't think this time it would be to deal with a 5-star and half-emperor human. The eagle smiled and looked at the scene in front of him. A pair of blue pupils showed appreciation from time to time. When the burning lion heard the man said by the eagle, the muscles on his face could not help twitching slightly. At the thought of the terror, even if he was a 9-star and half-emperor, he felt cold all over. Bang, bang, bang.
The terrible energy storm lasted for 10 minutes. Each bombardment would shake the world, but IAO is so. Most of the stone pillars surrounding the flaming lotus still stand. Until the power of fire lotus dissipated, Xionggang also turned into a human again, and quickly caught up with Xiao Yang, who had not run far with the other two. Hey, boy, I have to say, you are really good. You can use the strength of the 5-star and half-emperor to break out and transfer the power that we all feel frightened. However, if you have made enough noise today, I won't play with you. Finally, I warn you again. If you leave now, we can still let you go, but otherwise, we can only act according to the rules. Yan Lion looked at Xiao Yang with a smile. The look on his face meant unspeakable appreciation. As for the other two people, although their faces were different, their eyes looking at Xiao Yang were full of admiration. In their impression, no 5-star and half-emperor can run so long under their pursuit, and it is impossible for them to face up to Xiao Yang in front of them, but this is the first person. But even if the other party said all the good words, Xiao Yang has made up his mind. No matter what, he must break through the Shilin Mountains. Otherwise, he can only return to the human city. At that time, he will face more than half the emperor. After taking a deep breath, Xiao Yang's eyes slowly swept over the three people around him. After a long time, he said again, I'm sorry. I've made up my mind. Even if the three don't let me, I have to break through. When the voice fell, Xiao Yan waved his big hand and the Xian heavy ruler fell into his hand. At the same time, a black light flickered in the space in front of Xiao Yan, and the body shape of the North King appeared in front of the three eagles. Huh. At the moment of seeing the North King, the look on their faces could not help changing. When they noticed the North King's empty eyes, they immediately knew that the big guy in front of them was just a puppet. However, then, when the three noticed the strength of the North King, the look on their faces could not help changing again. This? 9 stars and a half emperors. How can it be? A puppet has the strength of 9 stars and a half emperors. The three people looked at each other, but they didn't expect that they were just a puppet, and their strength could be strong enough to be equal to them. It's really unimaginable. Tut tut, boy, you surprised us too much. The eagle stared at Xiao Yan and said solemnly. As for the other two people around him, after the North King appeared, they stared at the latter's body, especially the red eyes of the burning lion, showing a burning sense of war. Among the three, he was the most belligerent. Now he realized that the North King was extraordinary and naturally wanted to fight him. If I can, I really don't want to fight with the three. I just have to go this way. If I don't go this way, I have no choice, so I'm afraid I can only annoy the three. The heavy ruler in his hand waved, and the heavy ruler front waved aside with fierce wind pressure. The fighting spirit in his body was quickly raised. Xiao Yan looked at the three people in front of him solemnly and said in a deep voice. Similarly, we also act according to the rules. In the hinterland of Shilin Mountains, no one is allowed to step half a step, so you should also understand that next, if you are still stubborn, we can only do it hard. The Sky Eagle's eyes are sharp, and the look in his eyes gradually becomes indifferent. No matter how talented Xiao Yan is, the rules here can't change. Ha ha, you two deal with this boy. As for this puppet, let me do it. Hey, I also want to see how much power a puppet with the strength of 9 stars and half emperors can exert. Seeing that the atmosphere in the field gradually became tense, the burning lion's face showed a hot look. His body moved and stood in front of the North King. As for Xiao Yan, he dumped him to the other two people. Seeing this, Jianying and Xionggang have calm faces. They naturally have a thorough heart for the temperament of the burning lion, so it doesn't matter. It's just Xiao Yan. Although he avoids the trouble of the burning lion, one person can deal with the 2 9-star and half emperors, which is the same situation that will be defeated for him. But even so, in order to leave here, Xiao Yan can only harden his scalp. If he can't, he can just call Gu out. I believe that as long as there is Gu, looking at the whole Shilin mountain range, Xiao Yan can walk horizontally. Settle down, Xiao Yan's mind moved, and a gorgeous fire burst out of Xiao Yan's body. Along Xiao Yan's arm, it gradually spread to the giant ruler in his hand. It seems that you are still stubborn. Jianying's eyes narrowed falsely and finally warned Xiao Yan. Smelling the speech, Xiao Yan slowly exerted himself on the palm of Xian Chengqi's hand. The heavy ruler became extremely flexible in Xiao Yan's hand. Raising his head, Xiao Yan locked his eyes on the eagle and said, I'm Xiao Yan, please give me your advice. Skyhawk? After a simple self-introduction, Jianying's big sleeve brushed the void in front of him, and the breeze condensed. A transparent sword condensed by the wind appeared in Jianying's hands. As for Xionggang on the other side, his fists were suddenly clenched, and the earthy fighting spirit quickly condensed between his hands. Soon, on his broad hands, a pair of bear claws made of rock were condensed. The atmosphere was quiet for a long time. Another young lion who was confronting the North King took the lead. As soon as he took the lead, he was a fierce and domineering offensive and quickly fought with the North King. On this side, Xiao Yan, who was holding a heavy ruler when the burning lion was fighting with the North King, also took the Tianjue step at his feet, waved the giant ruler and rushed over with the Jianying. Compared with Xionggang, Jianying is undoubtedly much better to deal with. Although Jianying is very fast, even Xiao Yan is difficult to chase, at least he has far more soul power than these three people. With the advantages of soul power and Tianjue step, Xiao Yan can still deal with him, but if he was Xionggang, Xiao Yan doesn't have much confidence. Xiongang's muscles are as hard as iron. Even with Xiao Yan's physical strength, it is impossible to break his defense. His strength is in the 9-star and half emperor, and his strength is impeccable. Compared with the two, it is the eagle that makes Xiao Yan feel easier to deal with. In the twinkling of an eye, Xiao Yan had come to the Sky Eagle. The fighting spirit in his body was surging wildly. The giant ruler held his head high, his hands held the ruler handle tightly, and his body shape was twisted. One foot fell hard against the sky eagle. Seeing this scene, Jianying's face remained unchanged, his two fingers were close together, and with a wave of his hand, the transparent long sword suspended in front of Jianying greeted the huge ruler coming from the front. Ding! With a crisp crash of gold and iron, the giant ruler in Xiao Yan's hand was forcibly stopped in front of him by the random blow of Jianying. Roar! However, at this time, Xionggang on one side also waved a pair of bear claws and chopped hard at Xiao Yang. While the rock bear claws were rowing through the void, the terrible force tore the void out of dark cracks. Although Xiongang's speed is slightly slow, he has also come to Xiao Yang's side by the time Xiao Yang collides with Jianying. He swings his arms and a pair of rock claws, so he cuts at Xiao Yang. Feeling the terrible momentum coming from one side, Xiao Yang was afraid to be careless. The Xian heavy ruler in his hand shook hard and retreated the long sword a little. Immediately, people took advantage of this gap to turn around. At the same time, the giant ruler in his hand was quickly wrapped by different fire, and a fierce ruler was fiercely waved to Xionggang on one side. 7 broken sky feet. 1 foot. Bang! When the strike fell, Xiong just withdrew more than 10 steps. On the contrary, Xiao Yang withdrew more than 100 steps, and Jianying attacked Xiao Yang again. Ding ding! The sound of fierce collision kept ringing in the sky, and Xiao Yang, relying on all his unique skills, was surrounded by dangers in the hands of the 2 9-star and half emperors. Although it was inevitable to be injured, it still surprised the 2 9-star and half emperors. With the strength of the 5-star and half emperor against the 2 9-star and half emperors, and hundreds of rounds without losing, I'm afraid this record can't happen if we look at the whole continent. However, today, this absolutely impossible thing really appeared in front of them. Dang! After another fierce collision, Xiao Yang quickly withdrew from the distance of 100 feet, and couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of red blood. After hundreds of rounds of fierce collision, Xiao Yang has suffered a lot of injuries. In the face of 2 9-star and half emperors, Xiao Yang is really powerless. Raised his head, Xiao Yang looked opposite. Xionggang was waving his claws and rushed towards him again. The heavenly eagle, with one hand behind him and the other controlling the transparent long sword, looked at Xiao Yang and said in a deep voice again. Boy, you can only blame yourself for what happened today. We have given you a chance. Unfortunately, you still don't listen to advice. Cough. He coughed violently for a few times, but Xiao Yang's face showed a cruel smile. As soon as his palm turned over, 2 jade bottles appeared in Xiao Yang's palm in a flash. Without hesitation, Xiao Yang swallowed 2 pills into his mouth. The sweet smell wrapped in blood and the medicine fragrance of the pill filled Xiao Yang's mouth with a strange smell while Xiao Yang took the pill. The pill melted at the entrance and turned into 2 warm and moist powers. It quickly entered Xiao Yang's body along Xiao Yang's throat. Under the action of different fire, the power quickly spread to Xiao Yang's whole body. Suddenly, a warm feeling enveloped Xiao Yang's whole body. At this moment, the injury on his body quickly recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. In a short moment, Xiao Yang's breath has been stabilized again. Seeing this scene, Jianying could not help frowning, but Xiao Yang had once again straightened his chest, felt the rapidly recovering injury in his body, and regained his solemn color on his face. In the face of the 9-star and half emperor, he could not tolerate half the carelessness. After taking a deep breath, Xiao Yang took back his eyes and slowly lifted his hands to his chest. 10 fingers linked together, and cumbersome printing formulas were skillfully sacrificed by Xiao Yang. At the same time, the breath in Xiao Yang's body also increased rapidly. This video will end here.